Coming up on City Spotlight, we start the second half of Season 6 with an on-location episode on Toledo. We'll talk with Todd Butler, Superintendent of Cumberland Schools, and Barb Irvin Hall of Irvin Equipment about the current school year for the Cumberland School District and the start of the Cumberland County CEO program and the process of getting the CEO program going in Cumberland County. And we'll finish up this episode with a feature on the legacy of Burnham Neal. It's another on-location episode in Season 6, and we're talking Toledo here on City Spotlight. City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com. And welcome to another edition of City Spotlight. As you can see, we are on location once again here in Season 6, and we are taping a new episode here on Toledo as we tape here on November 18th. In this segment, we are taping here in Toledo at Irvin Equipment. And to help us out in the program, first of all, we welcome back to the program Todd Butler. He's the Superintendent of Cumberland Schools. Todd, great to see you again.
Oh, good to see you.
Appreciate it. And first time to the program, we have Barb Irvin Hall. She's the Executive Vice President for Finance here at Irvin Equipment. Barb, pleasure to have you on.
Thank you.
Appreciate you guys being on. Majority of our segment here is going to be on the Cumberland County CEO program that has gotten going here in Cumberland County. But before we do that, Barb, you're a first-time guest here on City Spotlight. Can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. I was born and raised here in Toledo. I graduated from Cumberland High School, stayed in the community, raised my children here, and very passionate about the future of our community and whatever it takes to make things go on forever. All
right. Thank you very much. Before we dive into school-related matters with Todd, Barb, tell us a little bit about Irvin Equipment. I understand it's got many locations across the United States.
It does. In 1981, my brother Greg Irvin founded the company, and it has grown now to several locations across the U.S. and in Mexico. Mm-hmm. We are in the transportation, sales and leasing of semi-trailers and semi-tractors, and we have a pretty wide footprint across the U.S.
Okay, very good. And you mentioned Mexico, so obviously it's international.
Yes.
Very good. I do notice, and as talking to you before we started taping, Irvin is in your name, so you are part of the family. That kind of tell us about being a part of something that is obviously in the family.
My dad was an entrepreneur as well. We grew up listening to business around the dining room table. When my brother started business, he didn't want to continue what my dad had started, and he set out on this process by himself. And we're a small family, so we all supported each other, and my parents have been here helping him along the way as an extra set of hands. I came and joined the organization in 1997, okay. And now his son is the CEO of the program, Cole Irvin, mm-hmm. And one of the offshoots of the transportation business is a coach leasing business, mm-hmm. where we build the coaches here in Toledo, and they are leased out of a facility in Nashville, okay. And that is owned by my niece, Kylie Irvin.
All right. So from Toledo to all kinds of locations. Very much. Thank you for sharing that history of Irvin Equipment. Before we talk about the CEO program here in Cumberland County, Todd, let's get caught up. We're 3 months into the 2019-2020 school year here in School District 77. Tell us about how the school year is going.
It's going well. It's hard to believe that we are 3 months in, because it seems like yesterday we were meeting for our first Teacher Institute Day. Each year the years go quicker and quicker. We have had a good start. Our athletic teams have done well. Our football team qualified for the IHSA playoffs. Our volleyball team won the regional, played in the sectional, was eventually defeated by Windsor Sioux Straws in the sectional, which is a very good team. And a big part of this year is the first inaugural class of CEO, and we've been looking forward to that for a few years now. Our kids are excited. They have really jumped on board with it. We've had a great beginning to the school year.
Excellent, very good. Thank you for that brief little snippet into the CEO program, which we're going to talk quite a bit about here with both you and Barb. Todd, first time we had you on was the beginning of 2018. We talked a little bit about everything across the Cumberland School District, and some of the things we talked about were physical changes. Have there been any physical changes in the schools since then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this last summer we built a washroom at our elementary school for our primary grades. Our kindergarten, first grade, and preschool students, an addition built on the end of that wing. Other than maintaining the buildings, not a lot of other additions. Our buildings are getting older, and it's just like every other business or school. You know, you got to maintain them to keep them up and working.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that update on Cumberland School District 77. All right, let's turn our attention to the Cumberland County CEO program. And it's currently in its first year here in Cumberland County. Here on City Spotlight, we've talked to educators in Effingham, Shelby, Christian, and Douglas counties that already have the CEO program going in their counties and their school districts. And Cumberland County is obviously the latest one here in Central Illinois, so I think that makes 5 if my simple math is correct. First off, Barb and Todd, why was this needed here in Cumberland County?
Well, I think when we became aware of the CEO programs in other schools around us, we saw an opportunity for our kids to learn creativity, responsibility, and most importantly, life skills. I grew up with an entrepreneurial family, was finding out that not everybody does, so for them to get their acquainted with business and money and finances and just life skills in general, thought it was a great opportunity, and the community completely supported the program.
Todd, anything you can add to that?
Well, I see it, from the student perspective. We were aware that other counties had this program. I received questions from students, high school students, who was interested in a program like this. And the thing that I like the most about it is it's really life skills. It's being okay with being uncomfortable, being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and firm handshake, eye contact, things like that. And it's things that you don't necessarily get to teach in schools. Right. The state continues to add required mandated courses that need to be covered for every graduate, and this is an opportunity for kids to learn just the life skills.
Yeah, communicative skills, obviously, things that are not taught in the classroom. So obviously everything that gets going, as it is now going here in Cumberland County, it's a process to get it going. Talk about the process that it took to get CEO going. It's obviously not an overnight thing, it just happened. Tell us about kind of the behind the scenes, the process that it took to get going. Well,
we started meeting as a group with about 15 community members and leaders, and then the leaders from Neoga and Cumberland Schools in June of 17. Right. And we did some research in that group. Whether the Midland Institute was the way to go, or whether to try to recreate the wheel and put this program within our schools. So by September, we had come to the conclusion that we were going to commit to the Midland Institute program. And so that commitment then took money. And so then it started, a $25,000 application fee was going to be required by the time we got around to that. In addition, we needed 25 to 30 investors for our program to start, and that investor is $1,000 a year for a 3-year commitment. Right. So once we had a lot of information from Midland, we got some great support with a Midland person was starting to meet with us
Right.
monthly. And so we went through that. In August of 18, we had to pay the $25,000 fee to make sure that our class could start. If we didn't make that payment in August of 18, we couldn't start that program in 19. And so we worked hard then to get our investors, and we're happy to be at 29 investors today, and 17 kids. I think some of the statistics they gave us earlier was maybe if we had 8 or 9 students in the first class, that was successful. And we have 17 kids and a facilitator and 29 investors, so we feel very successful. The students have already completed their student business for the year. They did that kind of early out of the gate.
Very successful.
Very successful. Todd and I just attended a mentor meeting, not around school kids a lot anymore, so I was completely impressed with the handshake, the eye contact, and the talking to an adult you don't know. And they did a great job.
They did,
You want to elaborate on that?
You know, a lot of that, just the eye contact and conversation isn't easy for everyone, and I want to give credit to our facilitator Julie Williamson, because they've definitely practiced and worked on just the basic skills of communicating with individuals. That it's easy to speak to somebody like your parents or your friends, but a lot of our students weren't familiar with the mentors, and it was a good experience just to sit back and see how the students interacted, and really the mentors themselves. It's not an easy, it's a lot of time that these mentors, the community leaders, business owners are committing to being a mentor, and pretty pleased with the way it went.
Hopefully, between the end of this taping of this segment with Barb and Todd and when this episode airs in the beginning of December for the first time, we'll have a little video of the students at a location, maybe a local business here in Cumberland County. Where are some of the places that they've gone here in this first class of CEO here in Cumberland County?
Well, they've started off here quite a bit. They use the Irvin Conference Room to meet, also the Toledo volunteer headquarters, First Neighbor Bank headquarters in Toledo. I believe it was the depot in Neoga. They've been to Schrock Custom Woodworking. I'm missing a few, but and that would be something that our facilitator can go through with you. But yeah, it's nice to see them in the business element, and they can also, the students themselves, see how busy a business like this is first thing in the morning. You know, just beginning the day it's a good learning experience for them.
For those that may have missed one of the other City Spotlight episodes, talking with CEO programs, and they meet 5 days a week, and they meet for was it roughly 90 minutes?
Right. Yes. First thing in the morning, 7:30 to 9, and then their school day starts. So they're transporting themselves to CEO class, and then they're transporting themselves to school.
Don't know how the other schools label this, but I guess that could constitute as their early bird.
Correct.
Very good. And for, as we talked beforehand, Barb, to have the community say, we want to be a part of this and contribute, for those local businesses to participate in the program and to make the time, because as you mentioned, it does take time for them out of their time, of their busy business schedule, to make this all work.
Well, and it's not all about money. That gets talked about a lot, but we do need those people in the community to be the mentors. They need to. They're opening the facilities to host. They're giving business tours to these kids. So there's a lot of support. These kids have an opportunity that kids before them haven't, because they're going to have been in the local businesses where they didn't know what some of those businesses did unless they shopped there or their parents did business there. And there's a lot of opportunity for jobs actually in our community that people don't know about.
They're the first class, so somebody has to lay the groundwork for the classes
right.
moving forward, and you guys learn from it, obviously will grow. Want to make sure we mention that the students come from the two high schools in Cumberland County, Cumberland High School and Neoga High School. You guys obviously mentioned it multiple times, 17 students, and not all of them are seniors, correct?
Correct. We've got a couple juniors in the first class, and it's, I think typically in other counties it is probably just a senior class. The juniors presented a good case, and it's a selection process. And
Right.
matter of fact, we're starting to select students for next year's class. So
Right.
it does start early.
All right. Is there anything that we've left out? I think we've covered a lot of ground here on this first discussion of Cumberland County CEO. Is there anything that we've left out that you'd like to share with our viewers on Cumberland County CEO?
Our students will have a trade show in April.
Okay.
I don't know the date now, but hopefully we'll get out.
Very good.
They'll get out a lot of information. But come see what the students have completed for their student businesses, and you know.
Very good.
Yeah, we're
support
very
them.
fortunate to, our students as well, fortunate to live in a Toledo and Cumberland County,
Right.
Because it's a supportive community. And they look at the schools, Neoga and Cumberland, they're small communities as those students are their students.
Right.
And I think that as we go forward, we're just going to see, with community support,
Right.
this program just becoming more successful.
It's definitely a team effort. Congratulations on your efforts on getting Cumberland County CEO going. My final question for both you, Barb and Todd. Back in October, WEIU aired Cumberland County, This Is Our Story, a variety of stories on the county. You both have obviously told us in obviously Todd's first time and now your first time here on the program, you're both from this area. What do you guys enjoy about being a part of Toledo and Cumberland County?
Community support is wonderful. If you walk through the doors here at Irvin, you become family. And I've been involved in community development for several years, and it's just very rewarding. But when you have a need for the community to be around you for whatever reason, you really see the community shine, and it's definitely a great place.
Thank you, Barb. Todd?
I echo what Barb said. I get to school every day and think how thankful I am to work at Cumberland School District and live in this community, because not all communities are like that. We have a great partnership, our school district and our community, and it's very enjoyable.
All right, very good. We've been getting caught up here on our first discussion here on City Spotlight with Cumberland County CEO, and we appreciate the time today of Todd Butler and Barb Irvin Hall. We appreciate both your time here on City Spotlight.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you so much. And coming up here on City Spotlight, we'll continue this episode on Toledo. We'll have a feature on the legacy of Burnham Neal. But first, let's take a look at some of the upcoming activities going on in Toledo.
The man was extremely generous, a very humble man, as you can be with that amount of money. He didn't flaunt it. He was always a true gentleman, and in every sense of the word. My story about Burnham starts back May the 15th of 1922. Burnham was born to Edgar and Loran Neal. Burnham had a sister, Rosemary. Burnham's dad started the Toledo Oil Company in 1925, and Burnham's mother was a school teacher in Toledo. They had the grade school and the high school together. And Burnham then in 1945 took over ownership of Toledo Oil Company. He moved his service or his office to a service station right there in town, and finally changed the name from Toledo Oil Company to Neal Oil Company. At that time, he kept going out and purchasing more gas stations and ended up with more than he could handle at one little location. So he moved his office across the street to a vacant Studebaker dealership, which had been run by his dad earlier. He kept that operation then from 45 through the 50s, and ended up, he opened a tire shop there in that office to have warehouses. At about the same time, he started Ben Tire as a wholesale business and kept that up, and eventually took a distributorship through Tire and Battery Corporation out of Memphis. Burnham then went ahead in 1963, started purchasing more stores. The first store he put under the Neal Tire and Auto Service name was Mattoon. Then he went, the next one was Toledo, then Charleston, and that was become known as his triangle store, which one he was really, really fond of. Then after that, he decided that was growing, he was still outgrowing things, and he bought his old schoolhouse, demolished the old part of it, and made his corporate office there, and where we put the Neal Tire and Auto Service for Toledo. He went ahead then and kept purchasing more and more and more stores and locations until he ended up with a time that he had over 30 stores in operations, and he had five warehouses that he had managed, and at the time was employing over 250 employees. And that basically started, and then he started his Neal Foundation. That was where the money part came. He started making all this money, and then Burnham's idea was to give back to the area and the community for the people that had supported him. He was very, very instrumental in starting at the start of Lakeland College, and he contributed on up, kept on contributing to it. He has a room there named Neal Hall. Went ahead and they kept on giving scholarships. Some of them were educational, some of them were industrial, and some of the students that went in there through the trades courses come to go to work for him. Went to a middle school in Mattoon and went to the library, purchased books and some computers for that class. Of course, from there on, he went on to Sarah Bush, which was very, very instrumental in donating to Sarah Bush. Of course, from then he went on to Eastern, and you all know about Eastern. We had the Welcome Center. The foundation then has been primarily situated and given to people, or the schools in Cumberland County. By his mother being a teacher, he was very well aware of what higher education was all about. So currently we're giving 2 one-year scholarships to Cumberland and 4 scholarships 1 year to Lakeland. And Neal, we're giving 1 to 1 and 2. Most of the other money is generated through the foundation goes to projects inside the school, which amounts to a pretty good sum of money. The man was, I don't know how I can put it and say it, that he was conservative but very generous. He was conservative with the workplace, but giving he was a marvelous man to do that. They also have a park there in Toledo named Neal Park. We have, last but not least there, we have the Y that was funded through personal and his foundation, and they're still supporting that. He wanted Toledo to have this Y, and we finally got the Y, but he wasn't in the swimming pool that he wanted for the kids. He wasn't here to see that. He'd be very humble, It was something that he had thought about and wanted. He'd been, even before his passing, it was a dream of his. He would passionate about it, that he wanted it. Toledo is so much better off with all that Burnham has done. He's so proud of his town. I know he moved to Mattoon, but it was more of a center. But when he had his corporate office there, he just loved Toledo. He was a hometown boy, small hometown boy at heart. First time I met Burnham, I went to work for him in 1957. I showed up the first day I'd just gotten out of school, not long ahead of that, and he hired me as an accountant and a manager. Well, I went in the first morning, I walked in and said, "Hello, Mr. Neal." He said, "Gene, it's Burnham." I had the second thing, I had on about like I'm dressed today, and he looked at me and he said, "By the way, you're a working manager." So that was point well taken. So he was a friend, you know. Like I say, I worked for him for 46 years. And he would come in, and first thing he would say, he says, "How's your wife? How's the kids doing? Are you needing anything?" And he was very caring. He cared about his employees. He looked after them. I mean, it was not to say that he couldn't show the other side if you did do something right, but which, thank goodness, I never had to face that wrath too much. But he was just a true gentleman, and it was a joy to work for him. Really, he'd come in, and if you were doing fine, he'd say, "If you need something, why, you're fine. If you don't, why, I'll see you the next time around." And that was the way Burnham was. But I saw on one of his little logos that said, "Neal Tire, we do it right." I want to say one thing. Burnham, I hope I've done this right for you. I missed him. He was wonderful for me, and he left too soon.
City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com.